Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today are Carolyn Eichert and Keith Smith, and they are here to talk about the fall production at the Hub. Welcome.
It's good to be here, Paige, always.
I'm always excited to hear what's coming up. You keep us informed and entertained.
Thank you.
So, what's coming up for fall?
So our fall production is a classic play on Golden Pond. It was a play first. It was written in 1979, and it later became a movie in the early 80s, and people will remember Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn for the lead roles. Well, our leads are Our Lady of Theater, Carolyn Eichert, playing Ethel, and she'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. And then Charlie Finkel, who we've talked about many times now, moved from California, a lawyer, and he's done several shows with us, and he's going to be playing Norman Thayer, her husband. So we're excited, and we'll talk about the other characters in a little bit. But I'll just say about On Golden Pond, I would call it both a comedy and a drama, and it's set on a lake in Maine. And we are playing it true to the time it was written, 1979, because there are phone scenes where he has to pick up a phone and dial it, and it needs to be in that era, so we're playing it true to 79. I'd read earlier, and I read a little bit again today, about Ernest Thompson, who has written now some 35 plays. I'm not sure if he's still living or not, but it was a very big success, and you can tell that because it's been translated into over 30 languages now.
Wow. Just
recently, Arabic. Which, if you have somebody in Arabia, you know, with their culture being willing to embrace Western culture, that's kind of impressive. And it's been produced in over 40 countries on 6 different continents. I would assume Antarctica is the one that hasn't had it.
I would assume so.
That's not a golden lake up there, it's a cold spot. And it's been produced on Broadway 3 times. And the last time they had an African-American cast, and it was James Earl Jones and Leslie Uggams played the leads on Broadway. So it's the movie and the play are both iconic, and it's something I've looked at doing for several years, and this is the right time, so I feel good about it.
Well, Carolyn, tell us about your role.
Oh, I'm excited about my role, but I want everyone to know that I'm not Katharine Hepburn, so don't be making
Don't try to be.
So, I am trying to work on my northern accent a bit, though, so I can park my car in Harvard Yard. I'm getting that shortly. Oh, it's a delightful, delightful role. I want folks to know that if they've seen the movie, you see the outdoors and the pond. The play itself is set entirely in the cabin there. So that's a little bit different for people who may have been endeared by the movie. I am sort of the plain guy compared to Norman, who is hilarious. He has such dry humor and such enormous amount of energy to bring to it and look like it's very calm. The character of Norman is iconic in that it is a reflection of every man in their aging years. I said it's just like Joe and I talking at home to each other. I feel very comfortable in that respect. I play the calm, he plays the comic, but I have some really good lines too. And we have been rehearsing once a week. We have rehearsal again on Friday to get our lines together, and then when the rest of the cast comes in, we will bring them into it. But because it's 65 pages of conversation, we needed to start a little early. And like I said, Ethel is the calm one who keeps the house going when Norman is less than pleasant to others.
Carolyn is Andy Griffith to Norman's Barney Fife. You know that. Yes. Yeah. And I want to mention, she's also our set designer, so she's doing a dual role, which she is all the time now.
I started saying you've designed several sets.
And we'll talk about the set, but I just wanted to say, when you mentioned that it's all in the cabin, that's one thing about plays, you have to contain them, but that gives you something to work with too, of focus, because Steel Magnolias, you know, the movie was out in the yard shooting those birds out of the trees for the wedding, but it's all in the beauty shop. So in one way, it limits you, but it also focuses you, and so that's kind of a good thing.
You get to tell a story with your words versus the pictures.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so great about the stage is those words and those stories and how each character tells that story.
And they have an arc. They should be going somewhere ideally to get to
Right.
somewhere. Yeah.
And throughout the years, you've had great cast, and I know this is going to be another great cast.
Well, like I said, my mantra is I'm smart enough to surround myself with good people. But this play, talking about that transition through that summer, which may or may not be their last summer on the lake. They've been going there for 40 some years, and so it's neat the way the first scene is April, and the second scene is May, and the third scene is June. And that's the first act, and there's a break, and then the fourth scene is July, and the final scene is August. So it takes them, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, the right months. Or maybe May, June, July, August, and September. I think it ends in August, but it's 5 months in a row, the summer months, each scene. And it's, again, that arc of development you see, and you see their summer winding down, and it's both winding down for the summer, but it's also looking at their lives, where they are in the structure of their lives, and they're starting to realize what's valuable about rekindling relationships that might have gone sour. And in the movie, I'll divert for a minute, you know, Henry Fonda's real life daughter, Jane Fonda, played his daughter Chelsea, in Norman's daughter Chelsea in the movie. And she said it was one of the most cathartic things that ever happened to their relationship. They got close, both as characters in the show, but also as actual real life father and daughter. So I think that's neat how theater can do that for you as well. And the other roles, it's only 6 characters. It's small. You know, we've had Sound of Music with 50 people and a couple dogs and everything going around on that little contained backstage area. 6 characters. There's Norman and Ethel Thayer, and that's Charlie, and Charlie Finkel, who we talked about, and Carolyn. And then their daughter Chelsea is going to be played by Kim Jordan of Hickory. She was just most recently Charlie's daughter, Atticus Finch's daughter, the grown daughter in Kill a Mockingbird. So 2 shows in a row she's Charlie's daughter. And her fiancé is Doug McCowan, and his son is Luke Peruch, who's done several shows with us, was real prominent in Mitford, and a great kid. We're still finalizing casting the postman, who was Chelsea's classmate in high school. They grew up together, and he's the postman. And it's not, no roles are small. It's the smallest of the roles, but they're all very important. And we're working on that. We have a lead, somebody who have a lead to get, so we'll know within a week or 2. We actually start rehearsals on August 14th, and tickets go on sale August 21st. So put that on your calendar. Your calendar. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Right. You have a great cast, and I'm hearing names that are familiar to me.
Yes. Everybody has become to me and I pride myself on having a lot of new people, not a lot, but every show having a couple of new people come in to join the group. But this is a cast of stalwarts who have all done shows there before and are veterans. And if Glenn Neal, you know, so we're looking at for the postman. So now, Glenn, your name's been mentioned on air. You got to come through and do it.
Your name's been mentioned. So, I assume you will be there.
Yeah, he's become a regular there now too. Yes. So it's a group that we're familiar with, and I like the idea of knowing we can rely on, you know, steady people for a very strong show. So.
The show is very endearing. I have not chosen to watch the movie because I did not want to make comparisons. I have chosen to just take it and play it as we have it within our setting and our space, and let it evolve and still tell this wonderful story that has been told many, many times in many, many places.
Yes.
It's not a big showy show, okay, like some shows are, but it's just looking at 2 people, as Keith said, as they're experiencing their lives, growing older, renewing relationships, still seeing that life goes on and that there's hope.
Exactly right. Carolyn mentioned about not looking at the movie. I used to be a real purist. Do not listen to the cast album for a Broadway album because you're going to be better than them anyway. Do not, in some cases it's true musically, do not watch the movie, not this. And now I respect that decision totally, but now I say, here, let me get you copies of this and read this and look at this, because I can't remember things long enough. So, but I certainly understand that's a good approach. You want to tell her a little bit about the set?
Yes.
I was going to ask about that, so go ahead.
Charlie was able to get us a photograph of a production that was being done in California, which is where he lived prior to coming here. But it only shows half of the set. So I had read and looked at the one described in the back of the script, which is all I had. And so from that, I have developed a 3-level set. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to build, but we've done those before. There is a screen door that is critical to the set, and it has to be up and down. So we're working on quite the proper way to do that. It's basically a large den with a fireplace. There's a table and chairs for a breakfast area, and then going outside through the screen door and other door, and I'm always fighting the bugs. It's the summer bugs. One of my last lines in the play.
We can all identify with that. Too.
This is my favorite time of year. No bugs.
No bugs.
No bugs.
Exactly.
And then we move up to the upper levels for the other parts.
That sounds like a challenge.
It is.
But you've been doing set design for a while. How did you get involved with that piece of it?
When we got ready to do Sound of Music, I'm able to visualize, okay? I started out as a design major in college, but ended up in education for a variety of reasons. Mainly there were no jobs for women designers back when I graduated from college in Colwell County. And so when we got ready to do The Sound of Music, I came to Keith and said, would you let me? And so I did some elevations and secured some pieces, and it was chaos. I secured Eleanor Kirby, bless her dear soul, to paint the Alps on the back wall of the theater. Not everybody was happy about that, but it's still there, and we have enjoyed it. And
it's been a background for several weddings.
It has been the background for several weddings.
At the Hub.
And so Keith has been gracious enough to let me give a stab at them. I have now a model. I do a model out of 3x5 cards. You heard of a house of cards? Well, this is literally a house of cards.
Or a set of cards.
A set of cards. I've done numerous ones that way. But I do it to scale so that we know exactly what's going to happen when we start building the walls. And we have a wonderful cadre of volunteers that come in. They've already been there one time and pulled out walls. This set is going to have 10-foot walls in places where we've only had 8, and those are courtesy of a
Hicks Photography.
Yes.
Who donated us about $50,000 worth of equipment.
And my husband and I are trying to determine how to keep those intact for future performances that Keith is looking at, but still be able to use them in a rustic cabin. So, and Joe and I sometimes see not eye to eye.
I was going to say we'd be remiss not to mention Joe, who's sitting out there. Hi, Joe.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you what they said, and of course it wasn't serious. But it's when we did Sound of Music, they'd been married 40 years at that time. And Joe said one day, we've been married 40 years. Said, this is the closest we've ever come to divorce.
we just built a house together. He said, how can we build a house and not build a set together? But it was one that had so many set changes in it. See, this is easy peasy compared to all
it doesn't change either like those, you know.
But it had so many set changes, and having not done one and not knowing the stage, we had to let that evolve.
Right.
But I guess part of the reason Keith has allowed me to be a part of the set building and designing is because I know the facility. I know what we're capable of. I know the space limitations, and I know what we have in stock because we've used them many times.
We've backstage is about this wide, a little wider. It's all you have.
Well, I mean, if you think
there.
about it, you're using what was a high school theater.
That's right. Auditorium or even library one time.
Auditorium. I mean,
the first year I taught kindergarten there, I taught in the stairwell on stage left. In the stairwell.
I can't believe
it was
that you got them all in there.
And I had 33 students.
Wow.
For the first week. So yes, my father was on the construction crew that built the building. It burned, and they had to build it again.
So Carolyn's connections to the theater, also to the building and teaching there. And
my brother and sister graduated there, and they have gone on now. And my children were there, and I taught there for 10 years.
Wow. I mean, we do find that connection. I think every time we do a show about the hub or events happening, we find that connection with that building. And that it's so wonderful to me to see the town own that, you know, and have that property.
I don't think some people realize, and maybe it's blowing our horn, but I don't care. I don't think some people realize the quality and the depth of what we have in a small town. It has regional people are aware of it, awareness as much as people locally are, because they come in from outside and say, I've seen this and this compares with that. And we're still trying to get promoted through Caldwell County.
That's right.
People still are not aware of it in some cases, but we're working on that.
We don't understand why, but they aren't.
No.
And so people so enjoy the dinner aspect.
Yes.
We often, sometimes we'll gather for a devotion back behind the curtain before it opens, and we just stand and look at each other and say, why are we here? They're having so much fun out there at those round tables.
Well, we do get to eat downstairs for fun.
that you know, the camaraderie.
Yes.
The camaraderie of the people in the audience is amazing if you get to walk out and observe that.
That's right, and you should give it an evening. Don't think of in terms of getting in and getting out.
No.
Come early, fellowship with your table, with other tables. Walk up and down the hall. It's beautiful. I see all the paintings and everything. And 3 doors down, and Angie's Gypsy Junk Angels, and I mean and then come back, watch the play, then meet the cast afterwards, go home casually. I have to always tell this one story, and I want to talk about the food in a minute, but I have to tell this one story that involves Joe. Carolyn was on a mission trip to Haiti, and we were doing the show No Time for Sergeants. And a group came from Viewmont Baptist Church, and there were 40 of them. And they brought a group of around 40 many times, senior adults. There's one lady, I do not remember her name, but she was in her early 80s at that time. That's been several years ago. And she was meeting the cast afterwards and greeting, and somebody said, you better go, you're going to miss your bus. I said, oh, they'll wait on me. Well, she went outside and they hadn't waited on her.
Oh my.
They'd gone. And they knew she wasn't there. And so Janice Woody, that worked there at the time, was husband. I said, honey, what is your church? She said, well, it used to be Viewmont Baptist. But Joe was there, and he kindly took the lady home.
Well, that was...
And I said, here Carolyn goes on a mission trip. One day he's already got another woman he's taking home. But that was a fun experience. But you do need to make it an evening.
Well,
it's an event.
It is an event. And I will say that when my family has gone, and typically we have a whole table, but they're not limited to that table, and I find they're always the last to leave, and I'm like, okay, we need to go. These people want to go home.
We're willing to stay
but
for a
it's
good
so
night.
much fun.
It is.
And the cast has so much fun. We have grown because in this particular cast, it's folks we've performed with before. But even when we have many new people, we become a family.
We work to develop that, and it happens.
It truly is a community theater. I cannot tell you the number of volunteers that come in and work on that set, that paint, that put the screws in, that take it apart, that move these huge walls around. It's just such a wonderful cadre of people, and it truly benefits and exemplifies the ability and the faith and the courtesy of the community.
That's very well said. And the range of performers, we've had people who have done movies, Dan Truitt, Kathy Stallings, others, all the way down to a little boy who came on with one piece of paper and one shade. I mean, you got that whole range. So that's great.
It is great. And you can see that in the performance.
Yeah.
Because the cast, you can tell by the way they react to each other. You can see that family connection.
Genuinely care.
And they genuinely care for each other, and you know, their roles may be to pick at each other like family, and they do it very well.
I often say it's like a team. You know, if you play a team sport, you're only as good as the other members of the team. And so that's what we try to do. We try to help and assist in any way, whether it's backstage, helping with a costume change, or getting a prop ready, or clearing out an area so those people can get through. All of those things happen. And if persons have never experienced working in a play, it's a unique experience.
It is that.
And it is a timed event that has to be carried on within the time frame and done effectively and efficiently.
Yes.
And I know Carolyn will agree with this. But a lot of directors or people pay it lip service, but they say, oh, everybody's important, but they don't assign that. I try to make the point, you could have that little boy who carries on, if he doesn't come out, it can stop the whole show. Everybody is equally important. They may have bigger parts and not just acting, but bigger time frames on the stage, but still it takes everybody together, and you're only as strong as your weakest link, so that's good. I was going to talk about some logistics in the food.
Yes, we probably need to do that.
Well, that's okay. No, while I thought about it, I'll go ahead and get the bad news out of the way. For some people, it's bad news. For some people, it's not. But for most people, it will be bad news. But we do not know our caterer yet. It will not be Daniel Bonin this fall. I think we're having them in the spring, and I can tell you why. I don't want to mislead people and have them thinking. I'll let you know right up front. They've gotten so busy in the fall with weddings, and they're like everybody else. They're short-staffed, and they just cannot accommodate us for 6 nights, 200 and some people per night. So we're not going to have them this fall. I hope that changes in the future. We will have them, I think, in the spring. But we're not sure of the caterer yet, but we're working on that. But the show itself, the tickets for the show and the dinner first and the show are $37. And the show itself only in the balcony, which is good seating, is $20. And the tickets, as I said, mark the date, go on sale August, I keep wanting to say April, August the 21st. And that's a Monday morning. And there are 3 ways to get tickets. You can go by and see Addie, who's the fine hub manager, director, and in person at the box office, 145 Cedar Valley, where the theater is. It's just out front of that. Or you can call 828-726-8871. Probably the most convenient way to get tickets, and in modern society, for those who use modern social conventions, you can go online to either the hub station webpage or the town webpage and click the link that goes to tix.com, and that'll lead you very easily through tix.com. So be ready to get those tickets. They do not go on sale though till that morning, so you can't get them ahead of time, not even online. And I mentioned the prices. The dinner's served at 6:30 and the show starts at 7:30. And it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, October 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. So it's really leading in the fall. And this is a fall show because of the reflection and everything. I think it fits. I try to put spring shows in the spring and shows that fit in the fall. And this one fits into the summer leading into our ending in the fall.
Well, you do a very good job selecting shows and getting them in at the right time.
Well, I appreciate that.
Is there anything else we need to talk about on Golden Pond today?
I know it. I think it's a show that any age group would enjoy, even though we're older.
Not little teeny kids, but teenagers.
Luke will bring such a joy to it.
Yes, he does.
Billy in the show.
He's like 15 in the show.
Right, he does such a good job, and it's. I think the one word I have about the show, and I've said it before, is just endearing. It's just endearing. And
there are levels to that comedy and the drama.
Yes.
And it's so poignant that they don't know what's going to happen at the end. We'll be back here, I don't know, but now we're going to go home. We're going to visit with our daughter over the winter. Right. We're going to take life a day at a time. That's what's given to us. We accept that and do it. And if we surely have convinced you by now, but if not, you'll get to hear Carolyn and Kim maybe do a little dance, but also sing a camp song.
Awesome.
So we're going to be with us, so that'll be good.
If I get it learned well.
Oh, it's simple.
Well, and this is another thing I know from working with Keith. There's always surprises in the show. There's always something, there's a twist. Whether it's men's chorus or shows with the hub, there's always a twist. There's something he adds in that he, right at this point, I'd say he probably hasn't even thought about, but his wheels are turning.
Well, I thought of a couple, but it will develop, like you said. It'll play like it plays. It evolves. We don't try to make it. We let it take its path. Right. You have to guide it and direct it to a certain degree, but it still has it's a living organism, and you have to be willing to flow with that. It's organic. It's real. It's generic, and too many people, when I first started directing, I would say, okay, on page 3, the 3rd line, the 4th sentence, you go stand 2 steps over there. And once in a while with kids or new people, you have to do that to get to. But I generally trust things enough now to have a general guideline, but you might maybe have to end up here, but to let it develop. Eleanor Kirby, who you mentioned earlier when we were doing the Cemetery Club, which you were both in, she said, am I right going here? I said, it's your house. Go wherever you want to. So yeah, we want that to develop.
In this show, you have to be at a door or a window.
That's right, at a certain time.
Or seated at certain times. So those will be sort of the points you have to land at. So Keith will work with us to get us to those points when we need to be there.
Yes, and do it naturally, so it's not, okay, it's time to walk over here. That's what you have to avoid. So.
Right, and that's, I mean, that is one thing that makes the show, is that you're not, okay, I have to be at this X right now, and I'm awkwardly walking toward that.
Yeah. Well, you know what, was it James Cagney said, and Sister Tracy said basically the same thing. He said, in movies they have their marks, like, and you do on stage sometimes too. He said, you find your mark, look up and tell the truth. And that's kind of not bad, but you have to do that naturally, get into that mark, and then I love that, tell the truth. It's your truth in that moment.
I've spoken with Charlie about the fact as we're working lines that I learn them in muscle memory. I learn them where my body is. I know them in my head. Well, I hope I know them in my head, but they come to life when I'm in that spot. Not stationary, but moving or whatever I'm doing.
Exactly.
That's how if I'm dusting, I know what lines I'm doing when I'm dusting.
At this point at this coffee table, I know what I'm doing here and saying here.
So that's been a plus for me, is using that muscle memory.
And she's got, it's just like me, but not necessarily good for me, but for her, but tons of experience. We've done this enough to know the little conventions and things you use and still make it real. It's like walking a tightrope. You have to live in the moment and be spontaneous, yet you have to be well rehearsed and have to make it seem natural. And our friend Greg Carswell, who's been passed away now for a while, bless his heart, he said, what you have to do is make it like you're saying it for the first time, like it's just coming out of your mind. Even though you got to know it 1,000 times in there to get it out. So it's a fine line and interesting, and can be maddening, but challenging too in a good way. And you always ask me what's coming up. While I'm thinking about that, I'll tell you, men's course is going to be great this fall, so we'll talk about that another time.
Always.
But yes, it's going to be even specialer. Is that a word? More special, yeah. But for the spring, for dinner theater, we're doing, and I think it's, I know the exact dates, but not in my head right now, late March, early April, or maybe all in late March, we're doing The Miracle Worker. Which is a classic that Anne Bancroft and Patty Duke did both the Broadway and the movie, and both won awards for doing that. Academy and Tony's, respectively. But anyway, this is a showcase for Chris Gibson, who has done a lot of theater for us. She's like 22 now, and she's lived a lifetime of theater with us. She's getting married and moving to South Carolina, down toward Charleston, and she's staying here for a couple of months just to do that show before she goes down. Wow. And she's beautifully signs aesthetically, sign language. So this is a great outlet for her. And she and I have talked, and we decided we're going to try. The North Carolina School for the Deaf has a theater program, and there's several young ladies in that. And I'm going to look for, not saying it will happen, they'll have to be good, but if there's a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old who fits this, we're going to use a deaf young lady to play it. I would not try to do unsighted and deaf. You've got to be able to see. But we would do that, and that would be a tribute to their community. And we'll have a night or two when we have sign for people who do that. But it's a great show, too.
It is a great show, and it's a great way to reach out to a different community that we may not always reach.
To me, still, Helen Keller, I admire her as much as anyone. She did have sight and hearing maybe for like 10 months or something. But that's still too young to develop. What I've always wondered, somebody's born blind and deaf, but especially blind even, if you say, okay, this is yellow, how do you convey what yellow is? And Chris says you use like warmth, yellow's a warm color and you feel the warmth in your hand, but you'll never be able to see it. But how she developed the mental capacity and the great professorial that she became being, it just blows me away. It's amazing, and how she accomplished. And didn't want to do it when she was young, but she got through to her. Annie did, so that's very important. Now shows us how important teachers are. But what she accomplished in her life is just incredible. So it'll be a story that inspires everyone, but like you said, especially a different community.
I had a blind friend when I was at Governor School, and I would take her shopping uptown in Greensboro, and she would hold my elbow, and she could match her clothes by touch.
Wow.
She had been blinded at 5. Her brother had hit her in the eye with a dart.
Oh, goodness.
And it severed the optic nerve, and so the other eye she lost sight in. I had a blind student in my first grade classroom teaching at Hudson one year, and then my daughter just got back from a mission trip to Nicaragua, and they brought in a little boy who was 3 months old, and the mother had abandoned at birth. The grandparent had the child, little boy, and Carmen had to tell him that he was blind.
Oh,
So,
wow.
but good caretakers, good
Good
caretakers, and that's what I think we're supposed to be, is just caretakers for whomever we can be.
I think you're right, and I think we need good caretakers.
Yes.
And we need to be good caretakers.
That's exactly right.
Yes, yes.
So
So you, I guess I should mention the dates of this one time.
probably.
Yeah, go ahead and sign up for Miracle Worker. But in the meantime, come to Golden Pond. I never can. I'm jesting, of course.
Golden Pond.
And the funny thing is, it's not actually on it. It's in the cabin beside it. But it's on Golden Pond as
In
the
the
show.
cabin beside Golden Pond.
That's
It's
right.
a little bit too
with
long.
the lake loons. Woo, woo, as you hear the lake loons.
Call to me all the time.
And it looks like the different kinds of loons. I'll be calling to you some, so that's
The funny thing is, Joe and I have a family of ducks at our house, so it's just very much like my house. We feed them. Okay,
Yeah.
so
You're going to get them confused about their identity. They're going to think they're loons. But it's the second weekend and the third weekend in October 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. And as always, we want to mention our fine sponsors like McCrary Modern, who take such good care of us. Talk about giving, and they're very good at that. But we did it in time to get finished, so the next weekend they can have their. Now, both John, our new town manager, and Addie, the hub manager, both love Halloween. We have big doings, so it gets finished before that, so it won't affect you with that. October 12th, 13th, 14th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 6:30 dinner, 7:30 show. Tickets 37 for both the show and dinner first, then the show, and then 20 for the show only. And you get those in those three ways and we can put the number up, so 828-726-8871, or go by the hub station, 145 Cedar Valley Road, or go to tix.com, tix.com, and get your tickets starting on August 21st. And you'll have some good food. I don't know who's going to bring it yet. It may be, maybe we'll have duck. That's terrible. Now we know why they've been feeding those ducks, to get them ready for dinner. Carol and I saw a thing, and I wish I'd kept it. And Eric was involved in this. You may remember this at Foothills 30 some years ago. There was a sheet going around, and people mimeographed sheets then, and it said, you've been involved in community theater when, and it had a list of like 20 things, and Carol and I could both check off about 50. One of them was you find your own furniture from home on the stage. Yeah, so.
There will be furniture from my house in this one.
So, but not the ducks. We're going to draw the line there. Not going to kill the ducks. No animals were harmed in this production, or will be.
Thank you both for being
Thank you.
here. It's been a delight. And we look forward to the production of On Golden Pond, and maybe we can come and talk to the cast.
Oh, we hope you will.
Oh,
Yes,
please
and it's a small cast, so it won't take a long time to get them all on station.
That's our biggest joy.
Yeah,
It's
and
just getting. When I speak to the people who come through, my thank you is to them for taking time out of their life to come and be with us. And I can truly say that 99.99% have just had a delightful evening.
yeah, we hope they'll be rewarded too.
Yes.
And it's always a pleasure to work with you and come here and do the shows.
Yes,
You've been
thank
so
you.
supportive of us, and it's great to get to always work with Carolyn,
Yes.
my sister.
Myself with Keith, yes.
Yeah, so, and we do have something special going. I hope we contribute to the speciality of it, but it's that whole group of people, that family. We've really developed into a family, and it's very rewarding and very satisfying.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.